Wednesday, August 30th, 2017. It is a gorgeous early fall evening, late summer evening, and Ivor, the timber dog, and I are checking things out at Freestone about a month after the logging activity is complete. I'm pretty pleased with our crew, but I am scratching my head about how we got ourselves into such a complex management situation. We've got 3 age classes of timber that we're facing here. We've got mature timber that we've left for the 3rd time, or the 2nd time at least. We thinned that, but we left the white pine, almost all the white pine, and we left the best of the red pine, and we tried to create spacing so that even though these trees are old, that they can continue to grow. And then we've got the probably 25-year-old regeneration that is both natural regen, oak, birch, of course some maple mixed in, aspen, and then planted red pine in the strips that are opposite of where the mature timber was left the last time. So we came through there the last time, we came through here this time, so we're kind of alternating our travel, which is fine, which is good. But you know, where do we come in the next time? Because now the next time we'll have new regeneration in this trail. So next time's not going to be so easy. This time was easier because we were going through mature timber and picking some of it out, and that's not so hard to do. But to try to then the next time that we come in to get this big stuff, finally, what path do we take then? So I'm trying to lay this all out in my mind and envision it. It wasn't drawn out on paper. We kind of defaulted to this, but it's something we've done before, and it's worked to this point, but we haven't really ever gotten to where we're coming in the 3rd time. I do want to point out that the guys did a beautiful job of skidding through here and not destroying or rubbing up against the leaf trees. We also need to come in and do some non-commercial thinning by hand and release some of the prime crop trees in this 25-year-old regen. We did do some mechanical release of the areas that were primarily red pine plantation because they were just too thick and really needed it. Anyway, ton going on here, and a person could sit and study this for a month and try to write a history of how we got here and what the plan should be going forward. Unfortunately, I don't have that much time, but I'm definitely going to be pondering all of this and trying to learn from it. This is the part of Freestone in which we started, I suppose June. Anyway, I documented this pretty well. There was a lot of white pine in here, and we saved most of it, the young white pine. It has struggled, but it has survived. But I wanted to point this out. I chickened out when I was marking the harvest trees right at this very spot. We've got some beautiful intermediate white pine here, probably 60 years old, I'd say. 50 years old would be my guess. Anyway, there's one there, and there's one there, and another one there, plus the one behind. And there were 2 others in here, along with a bunch of other stuff, but I took 2, and I sat here and I studied this tree in the middle, and I decided that we had already invested in this tree. We invested pruning time in this tree up about 20 feet, and what a shame to cut it now when we haven't really, there hasn't been enough growth to take advantage of the pruning. But you know, there's a more important factor here, and that is that we've already got crown closure on these 3 trees, and so this tree in the middle, if I'd have removed it, it would have released the 2 trees on the side, and we'd have had 3 white pine, the one back there in the distance, that one and that one, all with full room to grow, and they would grow rapidly. And and it was a mistake not to take this one, and I can't really do it now because I'm not going to come back here for one tree. And we're going to have a whole bunch of regen in here, new regen, and every time you re-enter, you damage the regen. So anyway, I'm going to try to remember next time not to chicken out. We really need to have nearly half the height of the tree as the spacing in between. And I know that gets to be severe, but we can grow other things down on the ground in place of that tree as a separate cohort, and or age class, whatever you want to call it. And we could have released these two. I mean, they'll grow, but they're not going to grow the way we want them to, which is rapidly and clear and super healthy. So anyway, that was a bit of a mistake and a learning experience. However, this whole job down on this end is nothing short of spectacular, and again, kudos to the Ryla Mill logging crew, because they did a very conscientious job in saving so much of this white pine this generation of young white pine, plus the red oak and birch that's scattered in here too. So it's going to be fun to tend to this now over the next 20 years and really make something of this before then we come back in and finally release it by taking all of the remaining mature trees that we've left. Continuing on at Freestone here on August 30th. This is an area that was thinned twice. It was really thick with red pine the first time, and we thinned it lightly, and we underplanted it with red pine in a pretty hopeless attempt to establish a cohort of young white pine. And we bud capped and we did a little bit of release work, and we did everything you could think of, but it did not survive because it just was not thick enough, and so there was practically no white pine in here to work with. Even though we saw it many times, it would never last. It would disappear, and then we'd see more, and that would disappear. Anyway, so we weren't trying to save any white pine as we thinned this much more heavily this time. And we left all the white pine that we could for seed over there in the distance. Although I did try to get a little bit of spacing to release the trees that we did leave for seed, because those are also important crop trees. But this was just thick with brush. It was just nasty. It took me forever to go through and mark this because I couldn't even see where I'd been 5 feet behind me, and which trees that I had marked, so it was hard to keep my spacing. Anyway, got her done, and Ross harvested this with the Feller Buncher, our Timco Feller Buncher, and it has a rotary saw head, and that's the only machine that I can think of that is able to just mow down brush like was in here. A bar saw, like on a processor head, can't do it. And it's a time-consuming thing with the rotary saw head, but it works, and it really does a beautiful job. And I know we're going to get brush again, but at least this time the white pine that's in with the brush is going to have a chance. And there's a little bit of advanced regen in here that will have survived the logging. Let's see if I can find some, and that'll even have more of a head start. This is the area that we first began whole tree skidding. Incidentally, we inherited or traded for a stroke delimber, and it's a big one that can handle the limbs on these kinds of trees. So it's not a bad machine for us, but I was concerned about the residual damage from the skidding of the whole trees, and the guys did a nice job. I don't see much scarring at all. I can see where they were rubbing in some cases, but it was a pretty gentle rub. And I'm still looking for some existing white pine advanced regen. I know it was here because I spent many days of my life bud capping this particular spot, practically on my hands and knees trying to find all these trees. Well, there's one right there. So that one's got a head start. And there's quite a few others in here too. But mainly we're looking for white pine seeding on what is now pretty well scarified soil. It looks good. There's no compaction, there's good scarification. There's quite a bit of logging debris, less than if we were doing a biomass harvest and all of this would have gone into a chipper. But it's got its advantages and disadvantages. We're also clearly going to get red pine that seeds in here, but we're going to be discriminating against that and favoring the white pine when we come in and start doing early release work on the regen, because the red pine that seeds back in underneath the red pine in a shelter wood like this, it just doesn't do so well. The white pine will do great now that it's got enough sunlight. Anyway, it's time to bring this project to its conclusion and call it a success, other than I've got to be diligent in following up and watching the regen and doing all of the tending work that needs to happen in between the harvest cycles. So anyway, over and out from Freestone.